But I think more and more people are finding the joy of good food and of being part of a community and connecting with the farmers.
Food is an essential part of all of our lives. Food connects people across barriers of class, race, and religion. Food nourishes not just our bodies, but our happiness. In the words of James Beard, food is our common ground, a universal experience. Conventional agriculture uses massive amounts of fossil fuels to create a cheap, abundant food supply at a high cost to our planet, our health, rural communities, and our ability to feed ourselves. Due to the increasing industrialization of our food production, there's a huge disconnect between us and where our food comes from. Less than 1% of the U.S. population grows the food to feed the other 99%.
Food deserts, neighborhoods with no grocery stores carrying fresh produce, are widespread, especially in urban areas. There's no carrots, but Pop-Tarts and energy drinks are abundant. Fresh, organic, and local food is too expensive to be a viable alternative in these areas. The consequences are preventable diseases like diabetes and heart disease. We need solutions to this epidemic that can realize the right of healthy, sustainable, and wholesome food for all. We need solutions that empower communities as well as bring them together. We need good food, and we need it now.
I think that growing your own food is inherently much more sustainable than buying food from the industrial food system because in general, on average, food that you buy from the supermarket travels 1,500 miles to get to your plate. And the food that we're growing here is not traveling anywhere, any miles. We're just walking, it's just human power up to the kitchen.
The local food is about the relationship and it's an education for the consumers of knowing where food is grown and how food is grown and really valuing that food. Getting people to value food again and the people who are growing it. You know, it's been a slow disconnection over the last couple generations.
Just to keep people healthy and keep our costs of healthcare down as well. I like knowing the farmers. I've gotten to know some of the farmers in the area, and I really like supporting them and what they're doing, and then they in turn are doing business locally. So it just kind of supports our whole community.
Not to mention that the production and distribution of food in the United States accounts for 17% of energy consumption. A recent study concluded that conventional food systems release 5 to 17 times more CO2 than local food systems, which helps to accelerate global warming.
In this society, we are creating what I would call a food apartheid, where we're having two different food systems, one for the poor and one for the elite, for the owning class. The system that's being created for the poor is the fast food, the McDonald's, the cheap subsidized corn-based food system, and you can buy a lot of calories on a really low budget and fill your stomach, but you're not actually providing nutrition to your body.
It's really big problems that we're having with diabetes, obesity, just really, preventable, health diseases that a lot of it are directly related to food, diet, and just lifestyle.
And the other food system of healthy organic food is becoming very expensive.
The major grocery store model now, just generally speaking, they don't go into underserved, low-income neighborhoods. There's larger grocery stores and they go into higher income areas, so you can kind of have what are now called these food deserts, essentially, where people don't have good access to high-quality foods.
Food deserts are areas in which people are living far from a source of fresh produce and healthy food. In 2006, it was found that 16.3% of American youth are obese, and rates of diabetes and heart disease are steadily growing. In an age where 2.3 million people live more than a mile from a supermarket and do not have access to a vehicle, more people are turning to McDonald's and 7-Eleven as their primary sources of food. For example, roughly half of Detroit has been declared a food desert, and it is estimated that nearly 633,000 of Chicago's 3 million residents live in neighborhoods either lacking or far away from conventional supermarkets. Something needs to change.
Soilborn Farms is a nonprofit organization. We're based here in Sacramento. We have three main goals as an organization. Primarily one is food production, so certified organic food production. We do a lot of education as kind of the second wing of our operation, and then we do food access as the third kind of wing of the organization. The Sacramento Food Bank gave us a grant where they essentially pay us money for food. We give them 60,000 pounds of food a year of fresh produce from our farm, and that goes out for free.
People around the country are starting community gardens.
And in Grass Valley, we found just such a garden in a mobile home community.
Yeah, I think people had the idea some time ago, maybe even a year or more ago, to have a sort of a community garden actually. In the beginning there weren't so many people that were interested in having a plot, and the situation now is that next year it'll be decided who will get a plot either by lottery or some other way.
This community garden is only a year old and was started by dedicated members of the community. It is part of a growing trend of community gardens appearing across the country. The American Community Gardening Association estimates that there are about 150,000 of these gardens in the U.S. and growing.
It has really benefited all of us because we've had an abundance of vegetables. I met people I had not met before. There was a bonding because we were doing the same things.
A study by the Community Food Security Coalition found that those involved with growing their own food in gardens were more likely to eat healthier, and that every $1 invested in a community garden yields $6 in produce.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it only gets better.
I think our country really needs to go in this direction. The way our agricultural system is now, the food may be cheap, but it's cheap because the government is subsidizing it and because it's hurting the environment. And I just feel like it's really important to get away from it.
You're taking this stuff out of the ground that you don't have to pay for. So you're using that to transport food, which is grown with chemicals too, right? Long distances. It's not real. It's like an illusion until the oil runs out.
I think if at levels of government, if they choose to support it, and all the public money doesn't go into like GMO corn, then I think it could shift. But I think it does take, federal action, state action, and locally supporting the people that are trying to produce food that doesn't hurt the environment.
It is necessary to move away from a system of globalized food and instead move toward localized, sustainable, and equitable food for all. Changing our food situation will help solve the climate crisis and improve the overall quality of life for all species. Our health, our hearts, our spirits, and our earth will benefit. The movement has already begun, and it is now up to us to join the fight for real food. We need to band together and begin forming our own local food systems with health and sustainability as the primary goal instead of profit.
All we ask is this: let us eat.